Shabbat Shalom, my Israelite brothers and sisters. So first of all praises to our Elohim and to his holy son, Hamashiach. So Zion, we're going to be dealing with an extremely hot topic because this subject is going to be dealing with the chain of events that are going to be leading up to our Elohim's coming. And so the title is going to be Before the Great and Terrible Day of Elohim. You know, the Most High left us with a lot of clues in the Bible. And when you read the scriptures and when you do precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, and when you start to put everything together and when you see the scriptures through the eyes of our forefathers and through the eyes of Hebrew Israelite, you begin to see a big difference because everything that we've learned in Christianity was a lie. And so us coming out of Christianity, it's like we have to it's like the Most High has to rewire our brains and give us new spiritual eyes so that we can see these things because they were always there right before us. We just never saw it. So we're going to be talking about the sun and the moon being darkened because throughout the scriptures, the Most High repeats his words. Now, if he repeats his word, that means it's important and noteworthy of paying close attention to it because there's something in this puzzle he wants us to clearly see. And like I said before, we have to search for it. We have to do our own due diligence when it comes to studying these scriptures. And let me tell you, I'm getting goosebumps of this topic because the things that we're about to share with you and the aspect of this thing is going to blow our minds because we have no idea how close we are to the end. And all these signs are displaying themselves. And it's like the Most High is sending his angels to activate his word. And prophecy is fulfilling right before our very eyes. You know, and you got a lot of Hebrews who are waiting for 2019 for something big to happen. Well, something's big happening already. I mean, even as we speak is going on. Things are happening that are leading up to these last days. You know, the elites are hiding things. They're doing things in secret. All this stuff that's going on. Wickedness in high places are going on right before our noses. And it's increasing. It's going to get worse and worse. So, you know, now is the time to be getting ready. Now is the time to really be searching. Searching. And a lot of us are fasting and praying because I've been getting a lot of comments from you Hebrews that are fasting, praying. I've been fasting and praying, you know, and it's nothing but the Spirit because the Spirit is moving upon his people. And he's bringing us to that next step, that next level, that higher consciousness so that we can be ready. So this is what we're going to do, Zion. We're going to be dealing with all the verses, all the possible precepts that are dealing with the sun and the moon being darkened. Because, see, there's something hidden there. There's something big that's getting ready to happen that the Most High has been warning us about. And I mean something huge. And we're going to talk about that towards the end, and you're going to see it clearly. And I pray as we're going through scriptures that the Most High opens your eyes. So make sure you have a notepad and something to write with because we're going to be covering a lot. We're going to be hitting a lot of scriptures, a lot of precepts. So let's go ahead and begin and get started on this journey here so we can get better understanding of what the Most High is trying to tell us. All right, so if you got your Bibles, go ahead and turn to the book of Isaiah, chapter 13, and we're going to read verse 10. And it says, "For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give her light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine." All right, so you're going to see this a lot that I have sun and moon underlined. Now, I have constellation underlined for a reason, for this context, and for the purpose of edification. Now, when it talks about the stars of heaven throughout the Bible, it can also mean, stars can also mean people, and heaven can also mean rulership. But we're going to talk about that a little later. But in this context of this verse, it's talking about the constellation. And that's the key word. And that's why I underlined it. So you can see that it's not, in this particular one, it's not talking about people and rulership. It's literally talking about the constellation. What we see, like when you walk out your door at nighttime and you see the stars, you see the little glittering, all that stuff, you see the moon. That's what it's talking about here. So I just wanted to make sure we completely confirm and understand that. So here, the sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. So what we're looking at here, Zion, is something so big that's going to happen that's going to cause the moon and the sun to be darkened. Now we're going to go through and investigate all the scriptures that's dealing with this, and then we're going to let the Holy Spirit, we're going to put our heads together. We're going to use our thinking caps, because the Most High wants us to think. He wants us to use our brains. That's what he gave it to us for, so that we can think of what we're reading about and analyze everything. Because I'm telling you, you're going to see it clearly. The Most High is letting us know that something huge is getting ready to happen. And I truly believe that the Most High has given us a hint what it might be. And we're going to talk about that at the end, towards the end. Now, you got some Hebrews who actually believe and teach that the eclipse, you have your eclipse, your solar eclipse, and your blood moons. Some of them think that that's actually what it's talking about when it says the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give her light. But I'm going to show you clearly from the scriptures, this is not talking about no eclipse or no solar eclipse or a regular eclipse or a blood moon, because it's something much bigger. Now, let's talk about some of these eclipses. Now, whenever there's an eclipse, now we just had one, right? We just had one, I think it was back in 2017. Was it like in September, I think, when the solar eclipse happened across the United States? And, you had all these people just lining up to see it. It was, it was a big spectacle to them. But see, here's the problem with eclipse. They can't be seen across the whole world. It can only be seen in a certain part of the hemisphere of the earth. So in other words, this blood moon that's coming up here in a couple of more weeks, it's going to happen in Europe. But see, when it's dark here, it's going to be light in Europe, and when it's light here, it's dark in Europe. So you can't see eclipse across the whole globe. And so the Bible is clear. It says the sun and the moon will be darkened. You got to remember that, Zion. The sun and the moon will be darkened. And I said earlier, let's put on our thinking caps, because we gotta be rational here. We gotta really investigate what's going on here. All right. So something's going to happen where the sun and the moon are going to be darkened, and that kind of cuts out. That pretty much cuts out these solar eclipses and these blood moons. All right. But don't worry, we're going to see it, because we're going to get more into it. Now, eclipse, solar eclipse, regular eclipse, and blood moons have been going on for thousands of years. It's nothing new under the sun. It's been going on. All right. So let's go ahead and get that out the box. Nothing special about that. All right. So now let's go to scriptures and let's see what dazzles these heathens. Let's see why they are so amazed when it comes to these blood moons, these eclipses and things like that. Because, they're always predicting stuff every time, just like last September when that eclipse happened, they predicted that the rapture was going to happen. This crazy guy this heathen named David Meade and his followers, they always setting stuff. But let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 2. It says, "Thus saith Elohim, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them." Read that part again. For the heathen are dismayed at them. And the word hit his mark, because every time we have these blood moons, these solar eclipses, guess who's out there lined up miles and miles? The heathens. And unfortunately, we got our black folks caught up in that too. Now, you may be saying, now, wait a minute. Now, aren't these signs that let us know that the end is near? Like I said before, brothers and sisters, these eclipses, these blood moons have been going on for thousands of years. There's nothing new under the sun. So can we say when it happened like 4,000 years ago, could that have been the last day? So it's just things that happen, reoccur, and it happens. Yes, there's signs, I believe, that point to what's going on. But like I said, they've been happening for thousands of years. Now, however, the Most High did give us signs in the heavens, but they were for our feast days. And I'm going to prove that to you too, because we're going to go to Genesis and I'm going to show you what the Most High says concerning that. All right, so let's go ahead to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14. And Elohim said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for," get this, "signs and for seasons and for days and years." Now let's look at our feast days. Now, how do we determine when the feast day is coming or when it's going to arrive? By the seasons. You know, we have our winter feast days, we have our fall feast days, and our spring feast days. So the Most High has made the constellation, especially the moon, to determine our feast days. That's what they're for. They were for us. They were for his people to determine the times and seasons of the feast days. Very interesting. And you know, when I do the Feast of Trumpets coming up in September, I'll touch more on that because there's more verses that's actually supporting that. That's talking about the moon, that supports the moon and the constellation being for the feast days and what have you. So that's how we determine. So when the new moon comes around, and that's why, you know, you have Hebrews, or when they celebrate the new moon, it's just indicating that a new month is coming. And that's it. So that's what determines. So just wanted to put that out there. You can do a little further study on that. So, but the Most High, yes, did create all the lights in the firmament in the heaven for the signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So there you have it. So let's go ahead and get back into the other scriptures that's dealing with the sun and the moon being darkened. So let's go ahead and go to Isaiah chapter 60. And let's look at verse 19. And it says, "The sun shall be no more thy light by day. The sun shall be no more thy light by day. Neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. But Elohim shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and Elohim thy glory." So there it is again. Together, the sun and the moon. And and like I said earlier, when you're talking about an eclipse, the eclipse doesn't totally block out the sun, because if an eclipse happens somewhere else, you might not see it in another location. So I know it's not talking about an eclipse or a blood moon, but we're going to get there. Just hang with me and let's stick together here. So let's go ahead and get another scripture. Let's go to Joel chapter 2 and verse 10. And it says, "The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble." Here it is again. "The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining." So in other words, some catastrophic event that's going to happen that's going to cause the moon and the sun to be darkened. Now, this is going to be worldwide. This ain't talking about no local thing here. This is talking about worldwide. You walk out your door in Europe, you can't see the sun. You walk out your door in the United States, you can't see the moon or the stars. So that means that something is going to be blocking all of this. All right, let's go ahead and jump down to Joel 2:31. And here it is again. "The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood." Now notice it says blood in this, but it's pretty much consistent because it's pretty much the same thing. "Before the great and terrible day of Elohim." Read that again. "The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of Elohim." Here it is together, the sun and the moon. See, it's just not the moon itself, but the sun too. We got to remember that. That's key. And that's why we know that it's not talking about an eclipse, because both have to be darkened. All right. Let's get another one. Let's go the same book. Let's go to 3:15, Joel 3:15. It says, the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw her shining. Now remember, we pretty much read the same thing back in Isaiah. All right. And so far, all the scriptures we've read dealing with the sun and the moon have been consistent. See, this is how the Most High does. He repeats things through his patriarchs. You know, we read the encounter in Isaiah, now in Joel, and we're going to read some more all over. So, all through the scripture. So, proof right here. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. All right, let's continue. Let's go to Matthew 24:29. It says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. All right, now the Most High has given us a little more clues here. Now, it's continuing to be consistent with the sun and the moon not giving her light. Now, that's evident. But look what it says in the beginning. It says immediately after the tribulation of those days. So in other words, we're going through tribulation right now. Now, you got some Hebrews who think that Jacob's trouble will start only in the future. But I'm here to tell you, Jacob's trouble has been going on ever since we got kicked out of our land, ever since we fled our land. It's been going on. It's just been increasing. We're still going through Jacob's trouble, you know, and yes, it's going to increase. It's going to get worse, what have you. But we've been going through tribulations ever since our forefathers fled their land from Tiberias when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. Had to get up on out of there. So ever since then, for almost 2,000 years, our people have been catching hell. You know, you don't think it was tribulations? You don't think it was Jacob's trouble for our forefathers to be going through slavery like that? The Atlantic slave trade? All the hell that our forefathers went through? And I can be here all day just giving detailed graphic things that our forefathers went through. Yes, that was their Jacob's trouble. That was their tribulation. And each generation since 70 AD, for our forefathers fleeing from their homeland, each generation has experienced their tribulations, and we're going to experience ours in this time. So yes, it's constant. It's been going on for almost 2,000 years now. Jacob's trouble. And it's not over yet. So that's why it says immediately after that. So it's coming to an end. The Most High is turning our captivity as we speak. And we are living in the last second. So we're coming to an end. So yes, soon, very soon, our tribulations will end. Our captivity will end. And that's a fact. And that's why I always say that, you know, our forefathers wish they could be alive in these days, because we are the last generation that are going to see the final destruction of these nations. Now let's go further down the verse after where it says, talks about the moon. And it says, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Now this is twofold, because this also going to be representing the powers of the earth. And we're going to get more into detail here in a minute on that. But who's ruling this world right now? It's the Gentiles, the heathens. They are ruling this world as we speak. And what's happening to their rulership right now? It's fading away. Why is it fading away? Because the word of the Most High said it would. The Most High sets up kings and he takes them down. So the time of the Gentiles is upon us. And especially the United States, because they're really losing their power. You look at all the other countries who are starting to turn on them. You know, they're pulling out of the petrodollar, the US dollar, and going to the Chinese yuan, turning to the euro. I mean, they can't really contain themselves, and they're trying all they can to put up a big farce to try to hide things from the American people. But they see it too. You know, there's only so much you can hide before everything falls apart. All right, so now let's go and see what happens immediately after the sun and the moon is darkened. So let's go to verse 30 of Matthew 24. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So immediately after the sun and the moon being darkened, now we don't know the time frame because the word didn't get the time frame. I mean, who knows how long it's going to be, how long the sun and the moon is going to be darkened before all this takes place. But I do know this, according to scriptures, when the moon and sun are darkened, a lot of other things are going to follow suit and happen rapidly, and it's going to lead to the coming of the Most High. We're living in some exciting times, and I'm telling you, we're starting to feel it. All the awakened children of Israel, the ones who hear, the sheep that hear the voice of the Most High, we're seeing it, we're feeling it, and it's like none other experience we've ever experienced in our whole lives. And we know this truth is to be truth and complete truth because we believe in the word of the Most High. We don't need heathens to tell us who we are. We don't need any other nations to tell us who we are. We know who we are. According to Romans 8:16, his spirit beareth with our spirit. We know who we are because the Spirit of the Most High has implanted in us. And that's why we know who we are. And the Bible says, my sheep hear my voice. And when you hear the voice of Elohim, you're going to move. All right, let's go to 31. And it says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the one end of heaven to the other. And this heaven is talking about the earth here. So the Most High is going to gather his people, all his people that are scattered to the four corners of the earth. And see, that's why we don't need to be fleeing nowhere, saints. All this flee doctrine is garbage because all you doing is going against the word of the Most High. Now, there's a group that was in Dimona that 50 years ago, they all went to Jerusalem trying to call it a village of peace, but it was anything but a village of peace. And I've heard some of the testimonies of some of the people who've escaped and were able to come back and give their testimonies, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, saints. And these Hebrews that are fleeing like that are the ones they target, because they have their low self-esteem and they think that America is Babylon, and they're the type of people that'll follow anything, and you got to be careful. That's why the Bible says test the spirits. There's a reason why the Most High gave us a brain. We got to use it. We got to think. We got to analyze. We got to test everything. That's why the Most High didn't call us to flee. When the Most High says come out of Babylon, it wasn't talking about flee America. Coming out of Babylon means don't participate in the things that the heathens are doing. Come out of our religions or pagan worship, all that stuff. The Bible says in Proverbs 3:31, envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. We don't need to be participating in the things that these heathens are doing because even Paul says they are a lawless people. They don't go by our laws. All right, so we don't need to be fleeing nowhere. The Most High is going to gather his people. The Most High is going to put us in our land, not man, the Most High. You got to get that through your head, saints. The Most High is going to gather us and put us through our land. So if you get some old knucklehead, crazy Hebrew talking about, hey, you need to flee, get out of America or go somewhere else, all right, you tell them the scriptures. Because the Most High did not give us the spirit of fear, because it doesn't matter where you go. You're going to be hated the same, and destruction is coming to all the nations, not just to the United States, but it's coming to all the nations. So don't fear. Just trust in Elohim that he's going to protect you. And if you have to die along with it, guess what? Just make sure you're faithful and you're praying, you're studying, and you're working out your own salvation with fear and trembling, because guess what? There is the resurrection. All right, so let's go get another one. Let's go to Mark chapter 13, and we're going to read verses 24 through 25. 24, it says, but in those days after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And I actually forgot to underline sun and moon, so hopefully I won't lose any brownie points from you all for forgetting that. So, but sun and the moon shall not give her light. Consistent with everything we've read so far. Read that part again. But in those days after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. Verse 25. And the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. See, here's a little more clue that the Most High has given us. It says, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of verses that heaven can also represent kingdoms or rulership, and stars can represent people, because this is exactly what's going to happen. These kingdoms are fallen. Their rulership are fallen. Like I said earlier, who's ruling the world right now? They are the Gentiles. The Bible says in Job 9:24, the world is given into the hands of the wicked. So we're not ruling right now. We're in captivity. We're at the bottom. So these world leaders are getting ready to fall. I'm talking, they're going to fall hard. And they know it. The Bible says that the devil knows that his time is short. And they know what's happening. These elites that are running this world, they know what's going on. They know that this is our book. They know the Bible belonged to us. Y'all remember that the movie The Book of Eli, played by Denzel Washington? You know, they had him with the Bible because Hollywood, they know, the people who run these movie industries, they know that this book belongs to us. And they've always known who we are. It's just the masses don't know, but they will know. They will know soon enough. So these world leaders, their rulership is coming to an end. They're getting ready to fall. They're getting ready to fall. These stars of the heavens are going to be shaken. These people that are ruling, this is their heaven. And they're slowly losing their heaven. It's going to be no more. So they better enjoy it while they can. Now, let me show you something here too. Now, stars can also represent peoples, and heavens can represent rulership. So I got some verses. We're not going to go through all of them, but I'll leave this up long enough so you can copy the scriptures and everything. So let's just get one. And there's many more. I just got a few of them here. But let's look at stars as people. So let's go to Numbers chapter 24 and verse 17. And it says, I shall see him, but now I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Seth. And you guys can have a lot of fun with this too, you know, and you can use the Strongs. You can look up whatever you use, whether you use the Blue Letter Bible online. There's a lot of resources out there. You know, we live in a time and age of technology, so, you know, everything is at our fingertips, and we can just look up things. Now let's go to Haggai. Haggai, and we're going to go to chapter 2 and read verses 21 and 22. So let me pull it up here. All right, Haggai chapter 2, and let's look at verse 21. And I should have got it underlined here. And it says, speak to Zerubbabel, governors of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will, verse 22, and I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen. So that's going to happen again in these end days, you know. And I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall come down, every one by the sword of his brother. So what is that an indication of now? These chariots was talking about our military might and force that we have now. All that's going to be destroyed. All this battle that they are gathering up, that the Most High is gathering up in the Middle East for this battle, this great battle of Armageddon is going to take place. And you know the old saying when Hebrews say this is their heaven, it's talking about their rulership. This is their rulership. And that's why so many of us are always crying out to the Most High, because we're tired. We're ready to go home. We are tired. We've been going through this for 2,000 years, brothers and sisters. 2,000 years. And, thank Elohim that it's coming to an end. And I'm praying every night that it just speeds up. We know the Most High will shorten the time for the elect's sake. We know that. And that's why we ain't got long. And that's why I wanted to do the series on the laws because, look, we're all a work in progress, brothers and sisters. And we know that a lot of us are waking up and we're not going to just jump into the laws cold turkey. But the Most High wants us to make an effort. He wants us to make an effort to study and to keep these laws the best of our ability because our forefathers, they had to learn quick and they got stoned for certain things. When they came out of Egypt, they had to learn real quick. They didn't have time. And you know what? We're not going to have 40 years after our captivity ends to learn these laws. That's why we got to learn them now. We got to want to be able to keep them now. We got to make haste. So use this time that we're living in to make things right with the Most High. All right, so let's go back to Mark. Let's look at verse 26. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. So again, right after the sun and the moon is darkened, immediately after that is going to follow the coming of our Hamashiach. So let's go ahead and get another account of the sun and the moon being darkened. Let's go to Acts chapter 2 and let's look at verse 20. And it says, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and notable day of Elohim. So there you have it again. The sun and the moon together are going to be darkened. So, key word, sun and the moon. We got to keep that in mind because there's a reason why I'm underlining these things because it's going to make perfectly sense once the Most High gives us the ability to put all this stuff together and start figuring out what possibly can cause something like this to darken the sun and the moon. All right. And we're going to look at several options. All right. Let's get another one. Let's go to Revelation, the book of Revelation, chapter 6 and verse 12. And it says, and I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair. Now that's black. Now that's, you can't see nothing like that. And the moon became as blood. Okay, there it is again. The sun and the moon is happening together. It's not just the moon by itself, and it's not just the sun by itself. But whatever's happening, it's causing the moon and the sun not to shine. All right, and this is something that's going to be worldwide because remember I said earlier, when the sun is shining in this part of the country, it's dark in the other part of the country. When the moon is shining, and vice versa. So when eclipse happens, it's not seen all over the world. So I know it's not talking about eclipse or blood moons. So we're going to get a little deeper into this. Now think of it like this, Zion. Now I want you to really hear me out, okay, on this, because I want to give you a scenario here. Now let's say we had a full moon tonight, or we're expecting a full moon tonight. We're living in the United States. So as that full moon is shining, well, guess where the sun is shining? On the other side of the hemisphere. So in Europe, it's going to be sunlight, while the moon is shining in the States. Now, picture this. Now, we're talking about an event that's going to cover or blot out both the sun and the moon. Now, I hope you get what I'm saying here, because we got to think, like I said, rationally and understand what can blot out the sun and the moon at the same time. And no eclipse on earth can do that. So I just wanted to put that out there to get you to think a little bit. Let's continue. Revelation 13 through 14, chapter 6. And it says, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth. And we've already talked about that. Even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Verse 14. Now here's what I want you to pay attention to, because we're going to talk about this too. It says, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. All right, now I want you to really focus on this last part here. Verse 14, and the heavens departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Now, several things are going on here that John the Revelator is seeing. The heavens are rolling up as a scroll, or departing as a scroll, and the mountains and islands are being moved out of their places. Now, what on this earth has such a great force that it can cause the heavens to roll away like a scroll and to move mountains and islands? Well, you've already guessed it. There's only one thing: a nuke as we know it, or something so destructive that it can do that. Now, you got to understand, Zion, 70 years ago, the stuff that they had back then weren't nothing, but the stuff that we got now, we got stuff that we shouldn't even be having. You know, we got some stuff that it shouldn't even be on the market right now. Stuff that's so destructive in our eyes that it can actually do that. This is why I know this is nuclear. Something so powerful that it can move mountains and islands and cause the whole heavens to scroll away like a scroll. There's only one solution. There's only one option for that, and that's nuclear war. Okay? I mean, what other option is there for this to be nukes or what have you? You know, if you don't want to call them nukes, whatever, something so destructive that it's going to cause mountains and islands to move out of their place. Now, here's where I want you to put your thinking caps on, because now we just read in the earlier verse 12, that the moon and the sun are not going to shine, are not going to give their light. Okay, we saw that the sun will become black as sackcloth. Now, what else on this earth could cause the sun to be darkened and the moon not to give her light? Now, can it be nuclear war? Yeah, that's a possibility. But here's the problem with that. Because, see, when those nukes start falling, that's it. The Most High is going to come and gather his people up. So that means that something's going to happen before. Because, see, the moon becoming darkened and the sun becoming darkened and the moon not giving her light is going to happen before we just read in verse 14. Verse 14 is the very last thing that's going to happen. That's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And then the Most High is going to come. He's going to deliver his people. Because he's not going to let his chosen get destroyed by these nukes. Not his chosen. So we got to think about other options here. What's going on? What is the Most High trying to tell us? Is something happening around the world that's getting ready to happen? Something big. And I think you're going to be surprised, because there is something big that's happening. That's happening all over the world. There are some events that the elites, that the world leaders have been keeping their eyes on. Certain locations. And I think you know where I'm about to go with this. But before we go there, let me show you one more verse, because I wanted to save this one for last. I wanted to save this one because this one really gives us some clues to what it might be. So get ready. Let's go there. All right, so let's go to the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 32, and we're going to read verses 7 through 8. And I want you to pay very close attention to this particular verses. All right, and it says, and when I shall put thee out, I will cover the heaven and make the stars thereof dark. Remember our very first verse we read back in Isaiah? It says, let me read that again. And when I shall put thee out, I will cover the heaven and make the stars thereof dark. I will cover the sun with a cloud. Read that part again. I will cover the sun with a cloud. Now, what destructive force on this earth that can put out a cloud so thick and so widespread that it can darken the moon and the sun. Let's hold off on that. Let's keep on. And the moon shall not give her light, and all the bright lights of heaven will I make dark over thee, and set darkness upon the land, said Elohim. So I want you to get the significance of this verse, because I'm telling you, the Most High is giving us clues. He's pretty much telling us what it's going to be. I'm going to read that one more time because this sounds really good. And when I shall put thee out, I will cover the heaven and make the stars thereof dark. I will cover the sun with a cloud. Now, we've already ruled out it can't be nuclear war, because when that happens, the Most High is going to come and gather his people. It's going to be something that's going to happen prior to this, prior to those nukes falling. All right. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give her light, and all the bright lights of heaven will I make dark over thee, and set darkness upon thy land, saith Elohim. So whatever this is something so big, something that we've never experienced in a recorded time or in Earth's history as recorded. Something that has never been spoken of throughout scriptures, that our forefathers have not experienced. Because no one has ever experienced this particular thing that's getting ready to happen yet. And I know y'all be like, y'all wish you hurry up and get to the point. But we will. Just want you to think and use your heads, because some of you probably already called it already and know exactly what I'm getting ready to say. So the most plausible option we have out there, saints, that can cover both the sun and the moon is none other than a super volcano. Now, this is something we've never experienced in recorded Earth history. Now, you know, these wicked scientists, they like to say it was 600,000 years before the last super volcano eruption in Yellowstone. But, you know, they just throw stuff out there. They don't even know what they're talking about. So a super volcano could throw out enough ash to cover just about the whole globe, the whole Earth. And that's just one super volcano. Ooh, we living in some exciting times, saints. And, you know, Ezekiel 32 gave it away pretty much. And see, this is what the Most High wants us to dig for, because he is giving us clues. And he's going to send his angels to activate all this stuff. Now, you look at all the volcanoes that are active right now, and I'm talking about the regular volcanoes. I'm not talking about the super volcanoes. Now, the super volcanoes are starting to become active. If you've been paying attention to the news, well, you're really not going to see a lot of them on the news, but, you know, there's been a lot of activity, especially at Yellowstone. Now, saints, we've read several accounts, almost 10, if not 10, on verses, precepts of the moon and the sun not giving their light. And the Most High is like, that's why precepts are important, because you may read one precept and then read another precept, and the Most High give you a little more to give you a clue. That's why I wanted to save Ezekiel 32 for last, because that gave the most clue to what this whole thing could be that would darken the sun and the moon. And a super volcano could put out enough ashes to block all of that. Now, let's look at a couple of things here. It says, what is a super volcano? A volcano which erupts and throws magma and rocky particles over an area greater than 240 cubic miles, 1,000 cubic kilometers, is considered a super volcano. So when you're talking about in terms of super volcanoes, you're talking about thousands of miles of ashes. I'm not talking about meager just a couple of thousand. We're talking about 10,000. I'm talking about something that can cover almost the whole world with ashes. And that could block out the moon and the sun. Now, we know the word of the Most High specifically says in Revelation that hurt not the earth or the sea until my servants are sealed in their foreheads. See, the four winds, the four angels are getting ready to loose these winds, brothers and sisters. And it's not going to be no joke. When the Most High gives the command, these angels are going to obey. and all hell is going to break loose. Now, these super volcanoes all over the world are starting to become active now. They're starting to wake up. You know, the news media is trying to hide it. See, Yellowstone is the most prevalent because Yellowstone has been really waking up. And geologists have been saying, well, it's not going to erupt in our lifetime. It's going to be another 500 years. Oh, they're calling BS on that. A lot of people are calling BS on that because things are happening so rapid, it's scaring them. Now, there's been even rumors, and I've been seeing some videos of the heathens purposely trying to, setting off bombs inside some of these super volcanoes, purposely trying to make them erupt. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but however, the Most High is going to be the one who's going to cause these things to go off, and it's not going to be a pleasant sight. Now, we have several locations of super volcanoes, and they're located all over the world. And like I said, Yellowstone being the most looked at right now because that baby is getting ready to blow, and these heathens don't know what to do. They're trying to come up with all kind of stories, saying that, oh, it's okay, you don't have to worry about it. But I'm telling you, the Most High is getting ready to set off some stuff. And he's already sent his angels. When he gives that command, those angels are going to let loose those four winds, and all hell is going to break loose. Now, that for sure, I can see something like this, a super volcano covering its ashes all over the world. Now, we don't know how long that's going to take place or how long it's going to endure, it's going to cover. But we know all of it is going to be really quick because remember, the Bible also says that her plagues come in 1 hour. So we don't really know the time frame, but we know it's going to be quick. And once these things happen, everything else is going to follow so quickly right behind it. I'm telling you, it's just, you're not going to have time. That's why I keep telling you, brothers and sisters, this is the time to really consecrate our souls in Hamashiach, working out our salvation with fear and trembling, studying this word, because there's going to come a time, and a lot of you are already by yourselves and everything because, you're scattered. We're scattered to the four corners of the earth. We got families turning against us, so we all feel like we're alone. You're not alone. I get a lot of comments saying that, hey, I'm alone, and you're not the only one. Majority of us Hebrews, I would say 99.9% of us Hebrews are experiencing the same things you're experiencing. We're all alone and we're scattered. And so we just have to keep faith. We have to endure to the end. We cannot give up this fight, brothers and sisters. Yes, it's going to get rough, but we cannot give up. It's not he who finishes the race first. It's he that endures to the end. Now, when I say being alone, I'm not talking about like being out without the Most High. I'm talking about not having other Hebrews to fellowship with. So a lot of us are in that experience. Some of us do, a lot of us don't. So now getting back to these super volcanoes. Now there's locations all over the world, as I showed you. But the one that's more prevalent, that the one that's getting ready to blow, is Yellowstone. And now when those things blow, it's going to cover, the ashes are going to cover pretty much the whole globe because we're talking about something so huge. Now, these are nothing like regular volcanoes. They got that volcano still going off in Hawaii, Kilauea. When I was in Hawaii, for about 3 years. I was there from 2009 to 2012. And every now and then, Kilauea would put out some ashes. And it would come across the ocean and you can see the ashes. It wasn't really, really thick, but it was enough where you can tell that it was burping out ashes. But a regular volcano are just going to cover a few 100 miles or less. A super volcano will cover thousands of miles in ashes. That's the big difference between a super volcano and just a regular volcano. And we've never experienced on this earth history and recorded time of an eruption of a super volcano. But we're getting ready to in this generation. Now, some of you Hebrews wasn't born when Mount St. Helens erupted back in the 1980s. And I remember that as a kid. That was the biggest thing on the news back then when that erupted, and that the ashes from that volcano covered a couple of 100 miles, and it was huge, and it did a lot of damage, destroyed a lot of landscape, destroyed a lot of it, and like I said, it was huge. But a super volcano, this volcano, a regular volcano, is nothing by far in comparison to a super volcano. Comparing a regular volcano to a super volcano is like comparing a firecracker to a nuke. That's the big difference. Just think about the explosive power. Now, a firecracker is dangerous. Don't get me wrong. But a nuke, oh yeah, it's 10,000 times more dangerous. So that's what you're dealing with. Now, y'all remember that movie 2012? Remember 2012 when they had that Yellowstone scene on there, when they showed the volcano erupting and everything, and that was a pretty cool scene too. I mean, it looked so real, and I like watching that movie because it reminds me of what's getting ready to happen upon this earth. So a super volcano would do so much damage. And like I said, we've never experienced it before, so we have yet to experience something like this, and we better get ready, saints, because it's getting ready to happen like we've never seen it before. And when it erupts, all that ashes, I'm talking about thousands of miles of ashes covering pretty much the whole earth, will block out the sun and the moon. Because remember, when we read those precepts, it had to be something that's going to block out both the sun and the moon, not just the moon by itself, or not just the sun by itself. That's why we had to rule out the eclipse. Now, don't get me wrong, the eclipses that are taking places are signs in the heavens to let us know that we're living in the last days. I got that. But when we got to be rational about when it comes to being very descriptive, because the Most High has given us clues and pretty much answers to what's going to be and what's going to happen. And like I said earlier, eclipse, solar eclipses, and blood moons have been going on for thousands of years, so it's nothing new. So that's why I really never get excited about them, and people ask me to do, hey, can you do a lesson on a blood moon? Well, really, there's no need to, because all it is just a sign in heaven or things that's been occurring for thousands of years, and the Most High has already given us his word and what to be looking out for. Now, when we was talking about the sun and the moon being darkened, now that is something significant, but that's not dealing with eclipse. I guarantee you that. So this stuff is powerful, and we're living in these last seconds. We're seeing things happen. Now, another option that other Hebrews may think, well, what about this planet Nibiru, or as they're calling it, because there have been meteor showers kind of all over the earth that's been happening, but they've been keeping it on a down low. Now, I do believe something is out there, and whatever it is, I believe that it's wormwood, and that's going to play a part as well, But when we're talking about a super volcano, to me, it makes the most sense, because that's something that can put out enough ashes to cover pretty much the whole earth and block out the sun and the moon at the same time. So time will tell, brothers and sisters. We're going to see, and we don't know in full details how all this is going to play out, but we do know through the signs we're living in the last days, and it's exciting, and I literally get goosebumps, even thinking about this, just knowing and being privileged to be awoke is even a blessing. And that's why we have to count our blessings, brothers and sisters. So, when we witnessing to our families, it's going to seem like they're never going to get it, but don't give up on them. Don't give up on your people. The Bible says we got to love our enemies, and it's talking about our people. And if they don't want to listen, then step back for a little bit, give them some space, let them come to you. They'll come around. And I truly believe that the most as these events happen and as more destruction come upon this earth, it's going to hit them like a ton of bricks, and they're going to realize, wait a minute, my sister's been telling me the truth all this time. My mother's been telling me the truth all this time. My son has been telling me the truth all this time. My girlfriend or my boyfriend has been telling me this truth all this time. So something's going to click. And a lot of our people are going to wake up in the very last hour. And we all going to get the same salvation, brothers and sisters. So, this ain't about trying to be the best Hebrew. It's not about that, because we're all going to get the same salvation. We just got to make sure that we make it. We got to make sure that we're counted among that number. Enduring to the end. That's what's going to matter. So I pray for you all day and night. You have no idea. And I know you all pray for me. And I look forward in coming time. I'm not going to put a time frame on it. Like I said, we don't know when all this is going to happen. So I vowed to the Most High that I would keep blowing the trumpet. And as long as I got breath in me, by the grace of the Most High Yah, I look forward to more future lessons. We got some exciting things that we're going to be putting out. We're going to be getting more back into the book of Revelation. We're going to be covering a lot of things. There's a lot of things we're going to be covering, brothers and sisters. And I'm excited, And we're going to grow together. We're going to learn scriptures together. So, with that being said, I really prayed that you were edified in this lesson. Go back and study, even do a further research on it. Tell me what you think, Do you think it's going to be a supervolcano? Do you think it's going to be nuclear war that's going to blot out the sun? Like I said, we're all still learning. But I just wanted to use all the possible precepts and try to use the best logic to come up with it could be, or it might be, that would block out the sun. So this was a very fun lesson for me, and I hope it was for you as well. So with that being said, I'm going to leave you with Revelation 14:12. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are those that keep the commandments of Elohim and have the faith of our Hamashiach. And like always, brothers and sisters, it's an honor to serve you all. And I say shalom and stay strong.